Hello everyone, welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Mike.
And I'm Rainbow.
I should say I'm Sir Mike.
Oh, Sir Mike. Does that mean, what does that mean though in the kingdom?
It would mean I'm a knight. I'm a knight of the realm serving my lord and master, my liege.
So my impression is that you would
Yes.
have this helmet.
I would.
And you have this metal thing.
Okay.
And you have this sword.
That's right.
And then you go save the princess.
Well, and a lot of that stuff didn't really happen. That kind of comes to us from the myths and legends of knights and kings and queens and all of the exciting things that they did, like slaying dragons and rescuing maidens from towers.
So what did knights actually do?
Well, they usually went around murdering people, stealing money, doing bad things, fighting in wars too, but kind of being the local tough guys of their time.
Like policemen?
No, more like
Pirates.
The local gangsters.
Oh.
Yeah, no, a lot of the stories of knights saving people and being kind to the poor, that comes to us from Victorian times, from stories and fairy tales from about 150 years ago. If you look at the real history of knights, this is back in the Middle Ages, knights and lords serving the kings and queens around Europe. A lot of them were big, tough warrior guys who didn't have a lot to do when there weren't wars going on, so they would go around basically beating people up and stealing their money and not being the nicest people in the world, which is why we have these wonderful legends about knights. And of course, in the legends, they're heroes, they're brave, they're noble, they never do anything wrong. And that is why we love to tell these stories.
It's kind of like the pirate stories.
Kind of like pirates a little bit. Yeah, maybe the reality in the story version doesn't really match up, but the stories are still great, and that's why we're going to be talking about this story related to King Arthur and his very famous knights. This is the story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Let's check out part one. It was New Year's Eve in King Arthur's court, and the king and queen were enjoying a magnificent feast with their loved ones. Without warning, a gigantic man who was completely green burst in on a green horse. The Green Knight raised his axe and challenged anyone present to strike at him with the weapon. Whoever accepted the challenge would receive a return blow with the axe in exactly 1 year and 1 day. All right, so Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, one of the wonderful legends that comes to us from King Arthur. These stories are probably around 1,000 years old.
That's amazing.
If you can believe it. So let's check it out and see what happens with Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It begins, it was New Year's Eve in King Arthur's court, and the king and queen were enjoying a magnificent feast with their loved ones. Well, huzzah! I'm glad that that's what they're doing on New Year's Eve.
That's what we do too.
Back then, exactly. It was a big festival, a big holiday, and kings and queens in their wonderful castle are sitting around in their big banquet hall, the big, huge dining room, probably hundreds of people feasting on meat and more meat, and maybe some bread with the meat. I don't think they ate salad. Did they eat fruit?
Maybe like grapes
winter.
or something.
In the winter time? Maybe meat and potatoes.
Figs?
But whatever, the food was magnificent. It was a magnificent evening, probably in a magnificent castle too. This is an adjective that we use to talk about things that are great, they're wonderful, they're terrific. They might be very big and impressive, or you might just want to say it was absolutely really, really good. It was fantastic. It was great. It was magnificent. For example, from our hotel room, we have a magnificent view of the ocean. It wasn't, it was magnificent.
Yes, and what was magnificent in this kingdom was a feast. A feast is not a meal. You know, a meal is like 3 dishes, 4 dishes maximum. But a feast is an entire table. You're looking at maybe like 12 different dishes, 4 types of bread, wines. It's gotta be huge. So when we think of a feast, we would think of Chinese New Year feast, you know, when mom has to get up at 6 a.m. to cook all day. In America, we've got Thanksgiving feasts, and in every kingdom across every culture, when there are celebrations, there will be big feasts. All right, a sentence for you. We had a huge feast to celebrate Rami and Mike's engagement. So definitely something worth celebrating. That's when we would have a feast. Okay, let's continue with our article. The next sentence says, without warning, a gigantic man who was completely green burst in on a green horse. So you have to use your imagination here, because men are usually not green and horses are usually not green. But we've got this gigantic green man and a green horse.
That is very strange. Hopefully it's just his armor that's green, because of course
I was thinking he's green.
Knights wore armor, but maybe he had green skin too. Who knows? But this is a very unusual thing to happen. To have someone on a horse just burst in, that means to enter very quickly and loudly into the dining room. Hey everyone, look, it's this green guy on a gigantic green horse, or he was gigantic. Well, both of them.
Both of them. Everybody was gigantic.
Probably gigantic, because if something is gigantic, it's giant. It's really, really large in size.
Yeah.
Russia is a gigantic country. The Taipei 101 is a gigantic building, and if you get an extra, extra, extra large pizza for your pizza feast, that would be a gigantic pizza.
Bigger than your face.
Bigger than you can imagine, bigger than normally found in nature. So yeah, a gigantic man would probably need to be on a gigantic horse, because a little horse just wouldn't be strong enough. Here's something that's gigantic that we don't want to see. There's a gigantic cockroach.
Oh my gosh.
In the bathroom.
I have seen that before.
It's probably not that big.
It's like probably that big, which is big.
It's bigger than you want.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, the next sentence says, the Green Knight raised his axe and challenged anyone present to strike at him with the weapon.
He wants a fight.
He wants a fight. Whoever accepted the challenge would receive a return blow with the axe in exactly 1 year and 1 day. Very strange. Why is it exactly 1 year and 1 day? We do not know.
Yeah, I've heard of people having sword fights, but not a sword fight that takes a year.
A year?
To have even two people hit each other. So something very, very strange is going on with this Green Knight. I think he's an unwelcome guest at the feast, and we're going to have to take a break. So we'll come back to find out what happens here and who gets to fight the Green Knight. Do you think it'll be Sir Gawain?
I think so, yeah.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。这一次要读的故事是 Sir Gawain and the Green Knight， 高文爵士与绿骑士。那这是亚瑟王传说中最著名的故事之一。我们来赶快读故事吧。新年前夕，在亚瑟王的宫廷里面，国王和王后正在跟亲人享受一场盛大盛宴。突然呢，就有一名浑身绿色的巨汉骑着一匹绿色的马闯进来。那这位绿骑士呢，他就举起斧头向在场的人挑战，要他们用这一把武器攻击他。那么任何接受挑战的人呢，将会在1年又1天后受到他的斧头回击。我们来看单字 magnificent。magnificent 它是形容极好的、出色的，或是宏伟的、壮丽的。那么 feast 在这边当名词，表示盛宴、宴会。Mike 老师提到说，国王王后可能是在宴会厅享受这个盛宴，那他用到 banquet hall 来表达宴会厅。那我们拼一下 banquet 这个字是 B-A-N-Q-U-E-T， banquet 表示宴会、盛宴。好，下一个单字 gigantic， 它是形容巨大的、庞大的。老师刚刚就聊到说，也许那位绿色巨汉他是穿着绿色盔甲或者是绿色衣物，也有可能是皮肤本身就是绿色的。那我们补充一下 armor 这个字 A-R-M-O-R， armor 表示盔甲。好，这边一个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看复合关系代名词的用法。关系代名词 who whom, which 或是 what 之后可以接 ever 来形成复合关系代名词。那由于兼具了先行词和关系代名词的功能，因此呢，前面就不需要有先行词咯。那他们所引导的子句呢，可以视为名词子句，在句中作为主词啊、受词或者是补语用。好，那我们用例子来看会比较清楚。You can buy whatever you want.你可以买任何你想要的东西。哇，我也好想有人这样对我说。Whatever you want 就相当于 anything that you want。那我们把它摆在动词 buy 的后面当受词用。再看个例句 ：Whoever solves the riddle will get a prize。解开谜题的人将获得一份奖品。那这边 whoever solves the riddle 就相当于 anyone who solves the riddle。那在这边就是当主词用。介华课文中。
King Arthur's nephew, Sir Gawain, volunteered for the task. When the giant knight knelt down, Gawain beheaded him with the axe. The knight, however, did not die. He merely picked up his head and placed it back upon his shoulders. Then, before riding off, the knight calmly reminded Gawain to meet him at the Green Chapel in a year. The next year, Gawain set out for the Green Chapel.On the way, he came across a beautiful castle and was invited to stay there for 3 days by the lord of the house. He also met the lady of the castle and an ugly old woman. The lord made a deal with Gawain. He would go hunting each day and would offer Gawain everything he killed in exchange for whatever Gawain received at the
castle.All right, so King Arthur and his guests, probably many of the knights of the famous Round Table, are there having their lovely New Year's Eve feast when suddenly this Green Knight bursts in and challenges someone to a fight. Now, this also is something that happens in the legends and fairy tales, right? One knight insults the other one. They slap him across the face with their hand or with a glove.
Fight to the death.And
then the next day or later on, they fight to the death. But usually it's a fight that lasts a while until someone wins and someone loses.
Not a year later.
This Green Knight challenged someone to a very long fight. You hit me once, and then a year and a day from today, I will hit you with my axe.
Weird.
That was the Green Knight's sort of offer or plan for a fight. So let's find out what happens. Well, of course, with all the brave knights, there is someone there who will take the challenge and fight the Green Knight. It says King Arthur's nephew, Sir Gawain. High five.
We got it.
We got it right. Yeah. King Arthur's nephew, Sir Gawain. It wasn't a hard guess. Volunteered for the task. So there you go. He's a brave young man. He wants to prove his bravery and, help his king, his lord, his liege. And so he volunteered for the task. So they get to it. When the giant knight, that's the Green Knight, when the giant knight knelt down, Gawain beheaded him with the axe.
There's gonna be nothing happening the next year then.
That was a fast fight.
Because he's dead.
I want my money back.
That's what beheaded means.
I don't know what's going on here. Anyways, so Sir Gawain was the brave one who put up his hand and said, hey, if you need someone to do this, I am happy to do it. That is what it means to volunteer to do something. You don't have to do it. It's not your job or your responsibility or a rule. You're just saying, hey, I'll do it. I'll help out. If you offer to help your friends move or help them study or help your mom in the kitchen when she needs some help, whatever, as long as it's something you don't have to do, you just want to do it to be helpful or whatever, you are volunteering. And we can also use this as a noun to talk about a person who says, I will do it, I am a volunteer. For example, with the verb, Jimmy volunteered to take his grandmother to the hospital tomorrow. Good boy, Jimmy.
Yeah, so nice.
Yes.
The second word we have here is kneel. Kneel is what happens when you get on your knees. So normally when we're standing, we stand on our feet. When we kneel down, we put both of our knees on the ground, and that means we are surrendering. It's like worshiping, giving up, surrendering, or respecting. This means that you really just volunteer yourself or give up yourself or something's going on where somebody else is above you and you are going to kneel down before them in surrender. Okay, a sentence for you. The farmer faced the king and knelt down. So this is probably like meeting somebody that's so amazing in the country. He's going to say, I am down here, you are up here, and you are wonderful. So that's what happened in this story too. The next sentence says, the knight, however, did not die. Without a head, he didn't die. He merely picked up his head and placed it back upon his shoulders. I guess he's gonna live forever.
Oh my gosh.
Then, before riding off, the knight calmly reminded Gawain to meet him at the Green Chapel in a year. So we're talking about this magical green person. Obviously, he's not human, because if you're human and your head is gone, that means you are beheaded, then you will not be alive anymore. But again, we have this non-human person, and he's going to be back next year. Let's see what happens.
He's big, he's scary, he can live without a head, and he likes the color green.
Put it back on.
That's what we know about this very strange man. So a year passes. Sir Gawain must have had a very nervous year waiting to fight this guy again in the future. But the year passes, and it says the next year Gawain set out for the Green Chapel. He must have been nervous, even afraid, but he's also brave and noble. So he went off to meet his fate at the Green Chapel. And then, that says, on the way, he came across a beautiful castle and was invited to stay there for 3 days by the lord of the house.
Oh.
So, this is the old days. They're traveling by horse. It takes a few days to go even a short distance. So as he was going to the Green Chapel, he stopped off at this other place and met a very kind lord of the house. Another rich nobleman, owns a lot of land, has his own castle there. And he also, that's Sir Gawain, he also met the lady of the castle and an ugly old woman. Well, that's not a nice thing to say. But anyways, so he met the lady of the castle, lords and ladies. This is, in other words, the wife of the Lord, and some other woman who was just described as ugly and old. I hope it's not the Lord's mother. That would be really rude. Jeez. But anyways, so there's these 3 people in the castle. Let's find out what happens.
The Lord made a deal with Gawain. He would go hunting each day and would offer Gawain everything he killed in exchange for whatever Gawain received at the castle. So we don't know what happens, but there was a deal that is about to take place, and I'm excited to find out what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, I think there's probably a weird connection between the people in this castle
I think so
and the
too.
Green Knight and this ugly old, maybe the ugly old woman is the Green Knight. Who knows? We're going to have to come back tomorrow to find out. So until then, enjoy yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you back here tomorrow when someone is probably going to lose their head. But maybe only for a short time.
Yeah, maybe you can put it back on again.
We'll see. Bye.
刚刚说到绿骑士向在场的人挑战 ，Rainbow 老师就提到 duel 这个字 ，D-U-E-L。Duel 可以表达决斗或是对决。在故事里面，亚瑟王的外甥 Sir Gawain 高文爵士，他就自愿接下这个任务。那么绿骑士跪下的时候 ，Sir Gawain 就用斧头砍下他的头。然而绿骑士他没有死他就捡起自己的头还放回肩上。然后呢，他要骑马离开之前，他又提醒 Sir Gawain 1年后要在绿教堂跟他见面。听起来好可怕哦。好，我们来看单字 volunteer， 它当动词可以表达自愿做或者是主动要求，那么当名词可以表达志愿者。还再来看到 kneel 当动词，它表示跪下。Rainbow 老师提到说，跪下可能是因为投降啊，或者是要敬奉某个尊敬对象。那它用到 worship，W-O-R-S-H-I-P，worship 可以表达敬奉、崇拜的意思。故事接着写到隔年Sir Gawain 出发前往绿教堂，在路上呢，他就偶然发现了一座美丽的城堡，堡主就邀请他在那里住3天。他也有遇见堡主夫人，还有一位丑陋的老妇人。好，堡主呢就跟 Sir Gawain 做一个交易。这位堡主他每天都会去打猎，然后会把猎杀的一切交给 Sir Gawain， 来换取他在城堡里面得到的任何东西。我们补充一下 ，Lord 这个字在中世纪的时候是指领主， 那么后来这个字也可以用来指勋爵，就是英国的贵族阶级之一。那我们文中是用 Lord of the House 来指堡主。Mike 老师则有提到 Liege。Liege 表示王侯或是君主。好，这边2个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看第一个重点是动词 remind， 它是指提醒、使什么想起。那以下介绍2个常见用法。第一个是 remind somebody of something， 可以表达使某人想起某事。那第2个用法是 remind somebody to 加上原形动词，就可以表达提醒某人要做某事。举例来说 ，The song reminds me of my childhood。这首歌使我想起童年。Please remind me to pay my phone bill。请提醒我缴电话费啊。好，那么延伸学习就是 reminder， 在 remind 后面加 er。变成这个名词，它就可以指提醒物。那么之后可以接 of something 去表达使人想起什么什么的事物，或者是呢，也可以接 to 加原形动词去表达使人想到要做某事的事物。举例来说 ，The painting is a reminder of their first date。那幅画呢，使他们想起第一次约会。第2个重点是 in exchange for something， 表示用来换取什么。exchange 在这边是当名词来指交换。例如 I'll give you this doll in exchange for that toy。我给你这个娃娃来交换那个玩具，好不好嘛？好，那么以上是今天的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
It was New Year's Eve in King Arthur's court, and the king and queen were enjoying a magnificent feast with their loved ones. Without warning, a gigantic man who was completely green burst in on a green horse. The Green Knight raised his axe and challenged anyone present to strike at him with the weapon. Whoever accepted the challenge would receive a return blow with the axe in exactly 1 year and 1 day. King Arthur's nephew, Sir Gawain, volunteered for the task. When the giant knight knelt down, Gawain beheaded him with the axe. The knight, however, did not die. He merely picked up his head and placed it back upon his shoulders. Then, before riding off, the knight calmly reminded Gawain to meet him at the Green Chapel in a year. The next year, Gawain set out for the Green Chapel. On the way, he came across a beautiful castle and was invited to stay there for 3 days by the lord of the house. He also met the lady of the castle and an ugly old woman. The lord made a deal with Gawain. He would go hunting each day and would offer Gawain everything he killed in exchange for whatever Gawain received at the castle.
Hi everybody, I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Matt.
And today we're playing Guess the Bear, a game where we each have 3 cards with 2 sentences on them and a word or phrase, and each sentence has been replaced with the word bear. We each have 1 minute to guess the bear. Okay, Matt, you're up first,
okay,
so let's put a minute on the clock.
All right.
All right, the part of speech for the first one is adjective. A blue whale is bare when you see it in person. He realized he made a bare mistake by breaking up with her.
Huge, big, massive, gigantic.
Yes!
Okay.
All right, second one is a verb. I bear at the local animal shelter 2 days a week. Her mother encouraged her to bear at the library.
Is that volunteer?
Yes, volunteer. All right, and your last one. Phrase, 3 words. Bear, 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 his freedom. The spy agreed to talk. I gave my sister a ring. Bear, 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 her necklace.
In return for?
Ooh.
In exchange for?
Yes.
Okay.
In exchange for. Yes.
Yeah, those were like in return for could have worked. And then the first one though, that first one with the whale, like it could be so many things describing how big something is.
Right, I wasn't
just
sure.
had to go through the list. Enormous, gigantic, huge. Yeah. All right. We got 1 minute on the clock for you, so let's begin. Okay, your first one is a noun. The king held a bear to celebrate his coronation. We're having a huge bear for Thanksgiving.
Event?
Not quite the
Feast?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Okay. The next one is a verb, one word. The priest bared at the altar and began to pray. You may need to bear down to see the broken lock.
Bow?
Like.
Bend? Kneel?
Yes. Okay. The next one is an adjective, one word. So, the view from our lake house is bare. A bare sunset painted the sky pink and blue.
What? The first one again?
The view from our lake house is bare.
Picturesque?
Like that, in other words?
Oh.
Oh, okay. So that one's hard because it could be many things, but it was magnificent.
Oh, magnificent.
So
Okay.
the view from our lake house is magnificent, and a magnificent sunset painted the sky pink and blue. Okay, so that one's hard. Those ones are always hard when it's an adjective and it has like so many choices.
I know, they have so many meanings. I know.